Hi friends, host Eric here is talking with French people, and we're discussing the 8 functions as polars and the advantage of having each one as polar. And I think, why don't we go around and we'll start with Becky to explain the advantages of FI polar, Floyd the advantages of TE polar, Susie the advantages of SE polar, and then we'll all discuss the other ones together.
Okay. Advantages of FI polar. I'm not clouded by stupid shit. Like, I'm not clouded by stupid shit. I can make decisions faster, probably. The way I see it overall is that I can make a concentrated effort to seek to understand someone else's position, and that can be useful to me. But I can't really do that with myself and have it be conducive, if that makes sense. Additionally, from what I understand of FI polar, this one's kind of double-edged in that I don't really know where I fit with other people. And that is both good and bad. It's bad because it means that I honestly don't know if someone doesn't like me. Like, they have to tell me. But if I do, like it's good in that I'm not really paying attention to it anyway. So I can have a lot of fun often.
I'd say what you're kind of getting at there is it's very hard for us to understand how important we are to somebody else or what that means exactly. Like we're we're determined not to impose because
Yeah.
it's like we don't have confidence in that relationship enough to strain it at all. All right, let's go on to Floyd. Talk to us about TE polar. Or first of all, can you talk to us about how to talk to us about TE polar?
No. I mean, I think like the advantages that I get from TE polar are like being able to have more independence and the way that I use my NI and TI in very concentrated situations. I mean, I just think like individuality is kind of like it's the best way that I can kind of find to say it. Kind of, I guess.
Well, let me chime in something about I noticed with Kimberly. So one of the frustrating things that it comes about dealing with my mom, who's got dementia, is she makes it difficult for you to be purposeful in your actions. As soon as you get purposeful about something, you got to deal with mom, who's got some little problem all of a sudden, you know. But Kimberly doesn't seem to really have a problem with that in that frame of reference. Like, because she's not really approaching it from a solvency angle in life in general, then when my mom is, she sort of goes with the flow with my mom, and it's either, my mom, your mom's chatty today or whatever. But if she has the time and she's attending to my mother, then she's just letting my mother dictate what's going on, you know. Whereas I always try to make activities purposeful in some sense, but it's not necessarily a good thing to try to make things purposeful.
Yeah, there's not a lot of. I noticed there's not a lot of like force attached to activities that people would normally want to apply, like games and things like that. Like I notice when I play with people who are like very TE heavy, if they're even doing something that is like something that's supposed to be enjoyable, it seems like there's kind of like some TE, like there's pressure on them and pressure that they'll put on the group with TE of wanting to do something a certain way, of having to have things work out in a way that makes sense. And it's a pressure that I just can't really relate to. And it's not
You must
that
play more efficiently. You're not playing efficiently enough. That's why we're going to implement some TE on this. That's how I experience TE too a lot, as counter value. It's like, I'm playing. You're not playing efficiently. That's not what one does when one plays. Susie?
Yeah, there's no right way to do things with me. I don't think in that sense.
Yeah. I get it, and it totally is a frame like that's about whether you see the purpose of doing things as being a social activity of sorts in some fashion or another, in which case you want to enable everybody to do it the way they want to do it. And you get the doing things the way you've done it before for Kimberly, or the way that you feel is singularly best for you. That's more important than the than the outcome or utilitarian calculi. Okay.
I think there's kind of a patience. Oh, sorry.
No, you continue, please.
I was just gonna say, I think there's like that lends itself to kind of like a patience with solving individual problems with people, like FE problems, where if I have to use my like TI to kind of figure out how somebody else is thinking, there's not a lot of pressure that I'm putting on the other person to put everything in a very like orderly fashion.
Yeah, that's true.
Or present it to me in a certain way. Yeah.
Okay, Susie, you want to talk about a little bit about SE, our third polar function? What's the advantages of not being able to do anything?
I can try. I was actually thinking about today. I think the superpower is that I'm very unaware of power structures such as hierarchy and positioning of power. So how that is as a
that's
superpower.
so much fucking SE polar right there. You don't even know what SE enough to know that that's not SE.
Okay, give me your definition, Eric. Give me your definition.
Look, that's FE shit. That's your fourth slot FE.
It's just not just FE. There is a power element to SE.
Which comes from what?
That was the angle I was going with, but okay.
Okay, but it. All right. So, the thing is, there are power elements to using FE. There's no doubt that it can be impactful directly, but that doesn't mean that social hierarchy is an element of FE.
Okay, are we talking about FE polar or SE polar?
I mean, I'm sorry. It doesn't mean that social hierarchy is an element of SE. Just because SE does include a power element to it to some extent, as does NE. It's an action function, right? So you're putting information out there. What I'm saying is, that doesn't mean it has to do with social hierarchy or power struggles amongst people. That kind of awareness sounds definitely like FE to me. But it's typical.
It's not just FE.
Okay, well, it's typical of somebody's polar to mistake it for somebody else, something else. I do that all the time. As you pointed out earlier, you busted me for turning the FI discussion into an FE discussion because I get the two conflated, you know? I would say that your SE polar comes through in ways that are much more subtle than people would think. That it comes through in things like not understanding the importance of doing something sometimes. Like, it's like sometimes the most important thing is to do something. It's not to do the right thing, it's not to do the logical thing, it's not to do the it's just to do something and fucking move shit along. And that's the element of SE, I think, that you probably don't feel intuitively and have trouble identifying or understanding exactly what it is.
Is it in like inertia, you mean?
Kind of, but it's inertia on a single path. Inertia that doesn't get deviated from that single path. So it's like, it's not a single path like NI, it's a single path like a single job you're doing, right? To do an SE job, like dig a hole, you gotta dig a hole all the way until you're done with how deep you want the hole to be. But somebody who doesn't have SE in the mix will get caught up in something else midway and never finish the hole and shit like that.
See, my superpower is to have all the tabs in my browser. And then I need a tab, but I can't find it because they're like this big. And then I have to just close everything and start over.
Right.
But that's okay.
What were you doing when you opened that first tab?
I started thinking about something random. And then,
I mean, what was the purpose of opening the first tab in the first place? You had probably something you were going to do or research or learn about or whatever, and you just found yourself a million miles away.
Yeah, that's true.
That's SE polar.
No, but it's more like a non-issue.
What to you it is.
I don't need SE.
Okay, well, I agree.
I can intellectually understand that I need to do shit, but that feeling you talk about, that's weak.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
weak.
It's okay. Come on, let's just get the shit done. That thing, But, it's
That's
like very.
annoying.
Do you think
that's a
patience is?
What?
Sorry, I was gonna ask. Do you think I was kind of mentioning this to Anton a while ago? Do you think patience is a benefit of your SE polar without having that momentum?
Yeah, I think it's a byproduct. I don't think it's I guess it's a good thing. But that thing you said there about, come on, let's do it. That's like trying to apply force to the situation to make it happen faster. There is a force element to that.
Okay, but see, the thing is, look, I get what you're saying there, but I really think that you got to remember the SE, when it's used by an individual, when I'm saying those words, I'm usually just saying them to myself, right? I'm saying, okay, come on, Eric, let's just do this shit. In that regard, there's no force to it at all. It's just like, I got to get this done, and if I do it now, I won't have to do it later. Like that kind of thought process.
But walking into a room and clapping your hands and saying let's do it, that's an SE thing that somebody's trying to initiate. They're trying to activate other people's SE from their viewpoint because it would activate theirs.
I mean, possibly.
It's why SE DOMs, ESTBs and ESFPs, it's why they are so, I guess you could also say ENFJs and ENTJs as well. But I think maybe possibly SE DOMs would be I'm overcomplicating it. See, there's TE polar.
I agree with you. No, I agree with what you're basically saying. That it's true that ESP is likely to walk in over and clap their hands and say, let's get this shit done, right? But I would say that that's indicative not of SE being related to power so much as it is that the FE consequences of being an action type that's saying to other people, that is trying to mobilize other people, are necessarily that the person's either going to be a leadership type or is going to be seen as a pushy person or is going to be, all those kind of other FE consequences that go along with it, I think are there and legitimate to point out, but I don't think they're part of SE per se. Is the distinction? I guess it's a fairly fine distinction I'm trying to parse out here, but I think it's worth making.
Well, I just think it maybe is just kind of I don't know. I was thinking about saying it could be an SI, from an SI standpoint as well, of trying to get that sensation going in people. I don't think that it has to be FE though. I mean, I think that they could possibly just be what you're talking about. Yeah, it's an FE. It's an FE utility in that regards. When they're trying to have an effect on other people, but I think it's also trying to get themselves going. What Susan's talking about is if she needs to get something done, she logically understands what needs to be done, why it needs to be done, why it makes sense, and then takes action according to that value.
No, and then she spends time thinking about how she's aware of the fact that it needs to be done, and how this level of meta-awareness needs to be explored with some internet searching right now.
Yeah, if she doesn't
before
stop
she actually takes action, we're going to need to research it both at the normal locutionary level, at the illocutionary level, at the meta level. We're going to need to research then our researching style. Why are we researching like this? And then after we're done with that, maybe we'll get back to the thing we were thinking about doing.
We have to research everything. Okay, but last semester I wrote an assignment and I did all the research. And when I was satisfied, I had to throw out over half of it because it was too much.
That might be an ignoring TE thing.
Maybe.
Yeah,
probably ignoring TE.
It's both ignoring.
I think ignoring TE plays a big role in INTPs. I mean TI DOMs.
I think it's both an ignoring TE thing and a polar SE thing, which is to say that following through on a given task, but I am digging the hole. I'm going to be purposed in some sense to get the hole done, right? So I'm not going to switch to a smaller shovel in the middle of it because it's not consistent with the SE. Yes, it's true. It's a TE question of how to do it, but the equation of how to do it is pretty straightforward. It's you dig the shovel into the ground and you scoop it out, right? So the thing about SE is being able to get from point A to point B in the just following through on what's been decided. So the problem is that Susie never really decided in the first place how much research to do. She never really framed a thing in the first place in terms of how much research do I need to get done. She never framed it in terms of what's the minimal amount of effort I could do to get this shit done. She never framed it in terms of like, well, how much do I really want to care about this? How much should I care about this? Or anything like that. She's never calculating like time opportunity costs. That's what it means to be SE polar, I think.
Yeah, but then I have all the things, and I'm satisfied until I realize I cannot have all the things.
Well, okay. So let's go on to our fourth one, and then we'll probably end this video. It'll be about the right length. Let's do the interesting question of NI polar. Okay. So let's go back to Becky. What are your thoughts on NI polar? Do you have any ESTJ or ESFJ examples you can draw from, or just any thoughts in the abstract in general?
In the abstract, yes. In particulars, no, because who I thought was an ESFJ is probably an ENFP. So I think that a benefit for NI polar would be, see, it's hard because I want to judge it, but
Oh, that's right. This is about the benefit.
Preaching to the choir here.
right? Yeah, it's. I think that a benefit from it though would be that you'd probably be very open-minded, like extremely open. You don't think?
No, I agree with that. I agree 100% with that. I think that it involves like I think it gives them a benefit of a lack of bias. I think of keeping track of NI images over time. Like they're not going to jump to conclusions so quickly. I definitely agree with her.
All right. Well, this is why I disagree with that, because I think that open-mindedness is most likely going to happen when you've got both knowing functions in the mix, and not just one of them. So I think your most closed-minded people ultimately are going to be ENTJs, ENFJs, ESTJs, and ESFJs. Now, it depends how you define open and closed-minded, granted. But I take my dad as a good example of an ESTJ. The advantage he has for being that way is, especially now that he's old, he's always got a previous experience of things that he can link to and know by that tool function what he's done before and what's normal, what's routine, and what's typical. But the disadvantage is that when things defy his TE frame problem, like, my mother's dementia or something, he can't really come to terms with the singular reality of it. And he keeps sort of imagining that it's going to stay the way it is indefinitely, or that the recent experience defines how things are now. So I guess we can't travel anymore because we had a problem traveling last time. Or, like, for example, he had a problem traveling with her. Kimberly and I offered to travel with him, so there'd be 3 people caring for her, which would make it a lot easier on everybody and would change the dynamic entirely, and it would make it a much more feasible thing to do. But his experience that was recently he had a bad trip with her, therefore, not that they took acid, of course, but he had a bad vacation with her. And so therefore we can't do this anymore. But of course, that firm NI conclusion is not NI, and it passes in 3 days.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense.
I have like a big bias.
Yeah, no, but they both types has that element of experience. Like they expect everyone else around them to perform according to expectation based off their previous experience, while they themselves have no track of time. They just do it the way they're used to doing it, and they do it that way, and they cannot really estimate how that's gonna play out, other than if they have taken note of experiential information.
Let me make clear though that TE Dom versus FE Dom. She's talking about FE Dom there with that thing.
I'm talking about both of them. My mother is an ESTJ.
But I mean, TE Dom has a good sense of how long things are going to take.
Yeah.
So they're not completely timeless or something. Like ISFJs are completely timeless. It's weird.
No, they are different. Like ESFJ timeless, and ESTJ is more on the shit doesn't play out the way they thought it would. I see my mother, she forgets that she only has 2 arms. She tries to do some shit, and she probably hasn't done it before or something, and she carries way too many things, and it just drops everywhere, and she has a hissy fit because shit didn't work out.
That's a TE Dom? That doesn't sound like a TE Dom.
That sounds like fucking me. That sounds like fucking TE.
No. It's more like she gets so excited because she has to do everything fast. It's like magic. It's like she asked me, "Can you come help me?" And I said, "Yes, soon." And I come down and everything is down, and I don't know how that happened.
Okay, well, regardless, when I came home...
But when it doesn't work out, and they have like that negative NI reaction, then you can see it.
Well, the thing is, like, when my dad came home from his trip, I had moved a table, and he got home early. I've meant to move everything exactly back, because I have lived with this man, you know, I've known him, obviously, my whole life. I lived with him for 20 years, or whatever many years I lived there, I don't know. And, so obviously, I'm familiar with his ways. I moved the table out of place, and oh my God, you would have thought the world would come to the end. Why did you move this table? Why is it over here? That's not where it was. There's another way of being anti-polar. It's like he's ignoring the fact that it doesn't fucking matter. It was like, 2 feet away from where it had originally been. Just move it back. Who cares? If that matters to you so much that it be there, just move it back. And he sort of like back scrambles. I was nice about responding to it. Just like, Dad, come on, man. Cut me a little bit of slack here. It's. And he's like, well, I was just curious. So, that's kind of anti-polar, too. Any last thoughts about anti-polar? Susie, you're with somebody who's anti-polar. So, how does it play out?
Yeah.
How does it play out in a romantic relationship? Do you have to tell them, this is the truth?
No. I don't think it's relevant.
That would sounds like more of a reaction that a conflictor would have with that.
Guys, we have to give a benefit for anti-polar.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
like, they steamroll. Like they think they know how shit is done, and usually it works out with that for them. And when they just do shit, whatever it is they set their mind to do, like either TE or FE, it's just like it's kind of like TI polar in some ways. That they get like that.
I still agree though with what Becky was saying though, is that I have noticed that they do place a considerable amount of importance on not they wouldn't place a considerable amount of importance because it would be their polar, but with their NE they place a considerable amount of importance on not really knowing everything, like not really knowing where something is going to go, or not really knowing from past experiences how something could possibly develop. They don't really future trip that much.
Well, the thing is, they want to interface. They do future trip, but they want to interface. So they future trip on a long-term scale, which is to say they can't. They live mostly in their fears about what might happen in the long term. In the short term, they want to interface one way or the other. They don't want to have to just deliberate ahead of time, know what they're going to do, and then act. They want to be able to know in general from experience or from universals what the situation is going to be, and then go and interface with it. Like, this is a good environment for you, Floyd, because you know basically what it's going to be, and you just get to interface and use your FE interaction thing with people who are well suited to use that with, because INFJs are very alpha quadra-ish in a lot of ways, at least in interaction style for sure. So I think that should probably wrap it up for this video, and we could maybe...
Did you want to do one more? I thought
we could do one. No, that's 4, isn't it? What did we do? We did SE, we did FI, we did TE, and we did NI. That's 4. We could do the other 4 in a different video, because this video is already going to be long enough, and I think if it's too long, then it loses its NI pop. Because I may be NI ignoring, but I'm not ignoring my NI today, all right, friends?
Yeah, and they have to see the next one because I said something about TI Polar we talked about earlier, which is not in the video. So see the next one.
All
Yes.
right, next one. Right, good. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.